ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive. Brought to you by Huntington Federal Savings Bank. Local then, local now. Member FDIC.
It is Friday, December 4th. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. You can join the program by calling the Miller Lite phone lines at 877-420-TALK. That is 877-420-8255. Miller Lite, hold true great taste. It's only 96 calories. It is the original light beer. Well, we're on the eve of Marshall playing football tomorrow. Thundering Herd taking on Rice. We go on the air 9 a.m. We'll have that game for you right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Thundering Herd not able to play for several weeks. Rice, same situation there. Marshall is fortunate having played 7 games. Rice has only played 3. So this is going to be a disadvantage for Rice. And, of course, it's at home as well for the Thundering Herd, so another disadvantage for Rice. We'll talk more about this game tomorrow, of course, during our pregame coverage at 9 a.m. We'll get into it a little bit later on here as well. But I want to focus on basketball mainly today because yesterday the Thundering Herd got win number 2. Had to come back from a 13-point first-half deficit. Beats Wright State 80-64, first road game of the season. You head up to Dayton, you head up to the Nutter Center. It's a tough place to play. Wright State's been very good in home openers ever since opening up the Nutter Center, and Marshall gets the victory. I mean, it's still getting used to college basketball the way we're playing it right now, or way we're seeing it played. Stadium, arenas, all empty. You've got all that open space, and players are spread out on the court. You know, every place is going to be different depending on what their arena capability is. Still got the game in. Thundering Herd with the victory. So now Marshall's 2-0. And it was a fun night because, one, Jared West has 211 career steals. 4 years at Marshall, he's now the all-time steals leader. When he hit the 209 mark, he had the record. He tied at 208. So he got that over with early, and then he added a couple more steals. So now he has 211. He's the all-time leader at steals in Marshall University history, passing Skip Henderson, a fantastic player. If you don't remember Skip Henderson, you're a little too young to remember Skip. He was one of the all-time greats, still is one of the all-time greats of Marshall basketball. So that record now belongs to Jared West. Marshall's 13-point comeback, largest since overcoming a 15-point deficit against Western Kentucky back on January 15th, 2019. Factoid courtesy of my guy Cody Lynn over at Marshall University. Also, the Herd has opened the season by out-rebounding its first 2 opponents, 45-38. That was a big number we were looking at last night during our post game. And still, you look at this Thundering Herd team, it could have done more. It really had, I think, an opportunity to put more points on the board because you look at that shooting that first half, 10 of 30, 1 of 11 from the three-point line. I mean, you're missing shots early on. You're still in it, and I really thought that the free throw line was very good to the Thundering Herd yesterday, 8 of 10 in that first half. Second half, the free throw shooting was a lot better, 14 of 17. So the Thundering Herd for the contest ended up shooting 22 of 27 for over 80%. A lot of that you can put on Tavion Kinsey. A lot of that you can put on Jared West. And speaking of Tavion Kinsey, career high now. Career high, 31 points. He's on a streak of 14 games of 10 or more points. And so he's hot. But still, 30 or more points for the first time in Tavion Kinsey's career. I think we're going to see more performances like that. And to add to what happened in the game, you got, I thought, solid performances. Went back and looked at a little bit of it. Bennett, Taylor, lots of rebounding there. I thought Jansen hit a couple of good buckets that were key. I thought Aaron Bennett, when he was in the contest, I thought he was good. So I had a chance really to go back yesterday and look a little bit at it again and kind of see what I might have missed the first time. And the one thing that's obvious is Tavion Kinsey, he was your offense for a long time, and then Jared West got hot. He got really hot. And something else you keep in mind, Jared West was also making things happen. How many assists did Jared West have? Well, you look at his number, he had 9. And the stat keepers over at Marshall are keeping this number. West has 25 games of 5 or more assists. So he goes out there, he scores, he steals, he makes other players look good by feeding them the ball. He had a fantastic game. Sure, Tavion scored more points, but Jared West was right there doing the things that he needed to do. And again, 9 assists. If you get an assist, that means you made a basket happen. You didn't get the points for the basket, but you made a basket happen. So 9 assists means you were out there scoring with 19 points, and you made 9 other baskets happen. That's a heck of a number to have right there on a game night. And so Marshall gets the victory. We're going to hear from Jared West a little bit later on, his post-game from last night. Tavion Kinsey, I'm going to let you hear that as well, and then we'll hear from Dan D'Antoni. I'm going to focus again on basketball. But before we hit the break, I do want to mention that tomorrow, hopefully what's left of the Conference USA schedule will hold, and we'll have several games to talk about. And we're keeping an eye on everything. The schedule is going to possibly change. I'm not going to be able to even guess until we get closer to Sunday afternoon, evening, get an idea of what Conference USA may do. Because FIU might not be able to play. And if that's the case, then you might see Charlotte. And that Friday game could all of a sudden be a different day. I mean, it could be Saturday, it could be earlier Thursday, who knows? I'm not sure what's going to happen here, but if Marshall can play FIU, I'm going to say that game holds. If Marshall can't play FIU, because right now FIU's got issues, maybe Charlotte comes in and then all of a sudden a road game becomes a home game. That would not hurt Herd fans' feelings whatsoever. It's not as if you can really travel to Florida and go see this game in the mass quantities you usually do. I mean, that's the one thing about going to Florida. When you go to those games, it's a lot of Herd fans in the stands. That's the one thing that's fun about going to the Florida games. There are a lot of Herd fans there. FAU, FIU, you're going to see a good contingent of Herd fans travel. Not going to be the case this time. So what's the next best thing? Well, get another home game. Again, total speculation, but we'll see what the final week of Conference USA looks like before the championship game is played. And as it stands right now, Marshall just needs to keep winning. That's it. Just win. You're going to play host to the Conference USA championship game. And for the record, if Marshall wins against Rice and has one more conference game left, Marshall wins against Rice, has one more conference game left. The worst that could happen is Marshall lose one conference game, but percentage-wise would still be able to host the Conference USA championship game. Again, we're going by percentage-wise. We have to look at the tiebreakers and everything else that's in play right now. And, of course, you haven't played Charlotte. You haven't played FIU yet. So my advice, obviously this is probably advice already being disseminated and executed and talked about. Don't lose. I know, right? Obvious. Very obvious. Don't lose. Because you've got so much ahead of you here. And tomorrow, let's give you a sneak peek. Tomorrow on our pregame, you're going to hear these guys talk about that. You're going to hear some of the Herd players talk about, look, it's right in front of us. We know it. We realize it. And we've got to continue to go about our business and handle it. Because these guys have sacrificed so much. And I'm not saying the other teams haven't, but these guys, this team, sacrificing so much to be able to play, to be able to not be the team that's the reason why a game is canceled. Not a single game on Marshall's schedule has been canceled as a result of Marshall. Marshall has been ready to play. Marshall has handled its business as a team. These players have understood that you have to live a different lifestyle now if you want to stay COVID-free. You want to stay away from situations that could possibly get you infected. And then if you're in a situation where you don't know, you get your teammates infected, all of a sudden you could lose a game if you're not careful. So hats off to Marshall again, because right now Marshall's ready to go. And I don't anticipate anything changing. Marshall will be ready to go the following week. And then for the Conference USA Championship game. So much potential here, so much in front of the Thundering Herd. But you got to get these next two games in, and you got to win them, and then you get to that conference championship game, which will be hosted at Jones C. Edwards Stadium. As I've told you before, write it down. I have spoken. Write it down. It's happening. Marshall will be playing host in that championship game. I don't know the opponent just yet. I'm not going to go that far. But I'm going to tell you right now, I am guaranteeing, lock it in, Marshall's going to be your East Division champion, and Marshall is going to play host in that Conference USA Championship game. I just hope they hope they don't let me down. I hope I'm not cashing checks here. Oh, they don't let me down. They're not going to let me down. Not worried about it. They're going to take care of their business. Rice is coming in tomorrow. We'll have that game for you once again right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. When we come back, we're going to talk Marshall basketball. Jared West up first. Jared, now the all-time steals leader at Marshall University. We're going to hear from him when we continue with today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We're taking Paul Swann everywhere. Download or subscribe to The Drive with Paul Swann on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I've got a reminder for you. I thought I better do this. Some of you don't have Twitter, and that's fine. If you do have Twitter, you should find me on Twitter, Paul Swann, at Paul Swann. But for those of you who don't have Twitter or the Facebooks, email, any electronic communication, let me pass this reminder to you. The game tomorrow versus Rice, you will use your Rice tickets. Okay, easy enough, right? This is the Rice game. You are using the Rice tickets for the Rice game. If you have a parking pass, this is Game 6 parking pass. Charlotte. Rice tickets, Charlotte parking pass. That makes sense? I'll say it one more time. Rice tickets, Charlotte parking pass. I still have my Rice parking pass, though. I'm surprised I'm not being asked to recycle that in the event that Charlotte is next week. Here's the thing. I'm hanging on to both of them because it might be that situation like, okay, I'll recycle your Charlotte parking pass. Or I get a new one. I don't know. But parking pass will be the Charlotte game. The tickets will be the Rice game. And that is a friendly reminder from your Marshall Athletics ticket office. Also on Twitter. Last night, Jared West breaking some records here for the Thundering Herd. He got his second steal in that contest of his 4. He passed Skip Henderson to become the Marshall men's basketball all-time leader in steals. At that point, it was 209. He now has 211. So the new record, which continues to be set until West is done at Marshall, stands at 211. So he's going to be setting this record for the remainder of his career at Marshall. Breaking that record of Skip Henderson's. He talked to him about that a couple of days ago. Prior to the game, he was pretty humble about it. He knows what an accomplishment it is, and it really speaks to the type of basketball that he wants to play. He wants to be really defensive minded. He feels that's something that he hangs his hat on. He's talked about all of this, but let's talk to him now about the victory. Now, of course, yesterday Marshall gets the win against Wright State. Jared West in that contest, 7 of 8 shooting. He was 6 of 13 from the field, but 7 of 8 shooting from the free throw line. Let me clarify that. 6 rebounds. He also had 19 points, 9 assists, 1 turnover, but 4 steals, and he was one of the key reasons why Marshall won that game. Here's Jared West from last night talking about that victory.
You all look at halftime, and again, for the second straight game, you all struggle offensively. How much did you all just have to get your energy level up and match Wright State in that second half?
A lot of it was definitely energy. I feel like we were missing so many shots in the first half that we were kind of getting drained. You know, it was like a draining period for us where it was just taking the life out of us because we weren't making shots. And honestly, I don't really think our defense was bad in the first half. I really didn't think it was bad. I just think we couldn't score. So I think that was a lot of the reason our energy was low. And, a lot of that was on me too because I wasn't, really producing how I'm supposed to produce and expected to produce. So second half, again, I feel like I just needed to get aggressive. I thought we got in transition a lot more off of our defensive stops, and I feel like that led to better offense and, in the end, more energy for us.
You look, it seemed like, guys like Darius coming in, just the energy, even Gordon Iron battling on the glass. I know that Love's a beast on the glass, but you all beat them in rebounding, and it really seemed like that started to take its toll on them too.
Well, first of all, Iron and Gordon did a great job when they were in the game. And like you said, they had a tough job. They had to bang with Big Boy. They were calling fouls, so it was tough. They had a couple moving screens as well, which made it harder for them to guard physically against number 11. So they did a great job. But at the end of the day, I think our defense was good. I think everybody contributed. I think Darius did an excellent job. Darius's activity and energy is it's everywhere. It's contagious. I just feel like he's around every play, and I feel like that's huge for us. I feel like everybody who got in contributed us at one point or another, and that was why we ended up making a run at the end and getting a big win.
No, we gotta bring it up. You get that second steal midway through the first half, but you all are still struggling at that point. It seemed like the second half, the defensive energy for you turned offense, and you were able to complement Tay, and you all fed off each other really well.
For sure. And again, I think a lot of it, because even to start the second half, we still missed some shots. Like, we didn't score. I missed a couple easy ones. Andrew missed one. I think we missed a couple shots, and we still couldn't score. I feel like those stops, we finally got in transition. Like I said, I feel like we played great defense. I feel like we played pretty good defense overall. And we finally got in transition, and I feel like that helped our offense tremendously. And we started to get a little bit of a flow, started to get some buckets, started to get some easier looks, got to the free throw line a lot more, and that helped with our energy. But Tavion did a great job. In the first half, he stabilized us for sure. Second half, he backed that up with another good half. So it was defense, getting in the transition. I feel like that was the key.
To become Marshall's all-time steals leader, what does that mean to you, especially as much emphasis as you put on your defensive game?
It's an honor. I'm grateful and I'm blessed. I'm just glad we're playing basketball, honestly, right now. There's a lot of speculation about games. There's a lot of sacrifices that everybody had to make, and I'm just glad that we're able to play. But to get that steals record 2 games in, that's a great honor, and I'm very grateful and blessed to, just be able to play and to get out there and get after it. Obviously, you guys know I take defense very serious. I take a lot of pride in it. I think it's a challenge for me. I hang my hat on it, and that's kind of my identity, defensive-minded player that plays hard and is gritty and tough. So for me, it's a great honor. I'm blessed and excited to have it, and I want to build off of it. And at the end of the day, it's my job to make sure our defense is where it needs to be. So I set the tone for it, and I'm going to keep doing my best.
At the same time, you couldn't get that record and not get a win, right?
For sure. The win was way more important. I'd have got the record another time, but that was a big win. We had to fight and claw and scratch to get back into that game. Then when we got back in the game, we made a run. and we finished the game. So we got up a little bit. They made a little bit of a run, and we still finished the game. So that's a great win for us, and that's way more important than any record.
Hey, Jared, going back to you talking about getting to the free throw line, not only did you get to the free throw line, you were way more successful than they were, to a point where you beat them 22 of 27. They were 11 of 24. You just talk about the consistency there really helped.
Well, a lot of that, again, was Tavion. Tavion, what was he? How many he missed? 2? What was he, like 9 for 11?
13 to 15.
13, yeah, so exactly, yeah. So he did a great job. A lot of that was him. And, that's something that we had to focus on a lot this offseason because for guards, Tavion and I we didn't really shoot a good percentage last year. So I feel like that was very important for us. And
where do you put all that food at on the other side?
honestly, they missed a lot. And I feel like that was big for us. And we knew that they had some guys that didn't really shoot great. So we tried to – and we gave up some free throw rebounds too. That's the crazy thing. We really gave them a couple extra possessions on free throw rebounds. So we knew that they were going to miss some. For the most part, we got the rebound, but we still got to do a little bit better job of that. But I feel like the free throw consistency was another big thing for us. So, and I got to applaud Tavion for making his. And I feel like we all did a good job.
Tavion talks about the team that adjusts first wins the game. Was there a point where, was it more, you had to adjust to them with the energy, or, what would you attribute that to?
I would say we had to adjust the way that we were playing, really. Like I said, and I don't want to, we just weren't we couldn't score. Like, we weren't making shots. We couldn't score. The ball was kind of stuck. They were doing a good job of getting in the passing lanes a little bit, and I think that slowed our ball movement down. But we did make that adjustment. And I feel like at the end of the day, it was just about getting in transition. It was about getting in transition off of those stops. And in the first half, we weren't in transition a lot, and we weren't running our stuff. Coach Dan even said that at halftime, and, all the coaches. We weren't executing our offense how we need to execute it. And I feel like in the second half, we did a lot. Our defense was really good, and we were able to get in transition. And when we're in transition, that helps our offense tremendously. So I feel like that was the biggest adjustment we had to make in the game, because I honestly feel like defensively we did a good job. And in the second half, honestly, for a long time, I don't really remember them making a shot. They were at the free throw line a lot, though, and that was kind of keeping them in the game. So our defense was good. We just had to turn our defense into transition offense.
Defense is definitely getting a lot better. Thundering Herd out-rebounding. That's a big one right there. Out-rebounding, keeping, I think, a good Wright State team to 64 points and really outscoring them 51-30 in that second half was big as well. So that's Jared West. Tavion Kinsey, the highlights were immense yesterday. 31 points. We'll hear from him when we continue with today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
The Drive with Paul Swann. Marshall Athletic Director Mike Hamrick. He knows.
Paul's the best.
On ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We're presented by Huntington Federal Savings Bank. Welcome back to today's edition, Friday, December 4th. The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Still to come, we're going to hear from Dan D'Antoni, get his thoughts on the victory. But last night, one of the big reasons why Marshall was able to win was the consistent offense of Tavion Kinsey, breaking that 30 mark. 31 points, career best for him. He was 13 of 15 from the free throw line, 9 of 14 from the field. And you know what? He got 31 points without a single three-point shot, not even attempted. So he was goose eggs, 0-0 across that stat line. 13 of his 15 points come from the free throw, and the rest come from the field, 9 of 14 there. 31 points. Guess what? 1 assist. It's not Jared West's assist numbers. I'm sorry. Jared 19 and 9. Tavion's 31 and 1. That's okay, because you know where the ball was going to for a lot of this game. It was going to Tavion Kinsey. So he had a fantastic performance out there last night, and we caught up with him after the game to get his thoughts on the victory.
Same thing I asked Jared. You said famously that the team that adjusts first wins the game. Was that the case tonight? You adjusted in the second half better?
Definitely. We just like Jared was saying, we look to get in transition. That's the big thing in our offense, getting in transition, settling down, running our stuff. We weren't getting what we wanted at the beginning. I think a big thing today, we had energy. Shout out to the bench. Our bench was amazing today. It felt like I was in the cam just with the guys who were on the bench. We had to bring our own energy, and I think at the beginning, playing with no fans, I think that might have been the biggest thing. Not just having that energy, that little push from our fans, and then having to adapt throughout halftime and knowing we weren't going to have fans. Everybody just settled down, run our things, run our stuff that we go over, and we ended up being fine.
Watching the TV broadcast, they commented that Wright State looked tired in the second half. Was that just more of you being more energetic? What were you feeling out there as the game progressed?
Shout out to Rizzo. Shout out to our strength coach, Matt. He keeps us in shape. Coach Dan, our game plan this year, we ran a lot. There was a lot of whining and crying this summer, but it paid off. They were tired. And like Jared said, I don't think they hit a shot, really. They had a three in transition, which we had a defensive little breakdown. Darius had fell down on the other end of the court, so it kind of put us 4-on-5. But that was about it. They were hanging around getting to the free throw line. So, I think they were really tired. And us just having energy plus us being over the summer, all the running that we had to do, it paid off, definitely. So.
Davion, I know that you and Jared have grown close over the last couple of years. You knew that this could be a record-setting night for him. How important was it to get a win on the night that he broke that record?
Oh, it was definitely important. I knew he was going to get. I thought he was going to get it last game. But the guy, I'll say it until I don't play basketball anymore. That's the best defense I've ever seen. He has the best on-ball defense, defensive IQ. It's just I can't see anybody in the country. I don't care what level of college basketball it is. And I'm biased, but at the same time, I've seen it with my own two eyes. And to get the win tonight and for him to break the record, it was just tremendous. Plus, he played very well on the offensive side, running our team. I think when he figured out himself, I talked to him at halftime. I told him, I need you. And he was like, I kept trying to keep his head in it. And when he started working that ball screen, everything started opening up, and he exposed their defense. And tonight, my hat came off to him because he really ran our team tonight like a true leader.
Well, and how for you, another milestone in tonight's game, you get your first 30-point game. I know that's something that you probably thought about along the way as well. How much fun was it? Just because it seemed like even in the first half, you were in the flow when nobody else was.
I knew it was going to be I was going to play the right way probably a couple of days ago. Coach Corney, he had got on me. Coach Jackson, he had got on me, and he talked to me about approaching the game with better pace, effort, and it was starting off the court at the extra hours, things like that. So today I just went into the game. Every time I go into a game, my mindset is definitely not about me. It's definitely about us winning. But I would say the play where I kind of knew I was going to start feeling it was the first play when I caught it in transition, did the spin move and dunked it. And I was like, I kind of took a time where we didn't score there and we were trying to figure out our offense. But then when I started getting into the flow of things, it was just, I don't know. I felt like it was lights out after that. The room felt real big. So
that second half, you mentioned Jared's work on the ball screen. It would have been easy for you all to get away from your offensive game simply because it seemed like there were 6 or 7 moving screens called, but you all stuck with it. How important was that for the bigs, especially Iron and Goran, seeing their first extended minutes, to stay with the plan? Because it seemed like when they were able to seal those blocks, then Jared was getting into the paint pretty easily.
They played tremendous. On the side of them getting called for offensive screens and moving screens and things like that, I think they did well keeping their head in it. they never gave up on the defensive side, and that's what we key in on. And defensive-wise, they played very well, and their big guy, him being like the best player in their league, they played very well on him. They took turns playing great, and then they had a couple bad calls, but they all kept their head. Iron was still motivated. He still pushed the team. Big G, he still pushed the team. When Jared started working that ball screen, it was everything just seemed to open up. We figured them out that they couldn't play with the ball screen. So I think for them to stay in the game and stay engaged, it was pretty good.
Tavion Kinsey, again, 31 points in that contest, 13 of 15 from the free throw line, 9 of 14 from the field. Dan D'Antoni's thoughts when we continue with today's edition, The Drive, on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Presented by Huntington Federal Savings Bank. Guests with Paul Swann appear via the Miller Lite phone lines.
We're wrapping up today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Before we go, we've got Dan D'Antoni from last night's victory. Marshall winning over Wright State 80-64. How'd the head coach of the Thundering Herd see it? Here's his thoughts after the game.
Well, second straight game, you look and offensively things weren't flowing very well in the first half, but it seemed like, Tavion kept y'all in it early, and then Jared really started to take over with the ball screen game midway through the second half.
Well, they played a lot harder than they looked on tape from last year. They were very aggressive in the ball screens, getting into our ball handler. And then we didn't set the picks up real well. I told them at half, you got to set them up to our bigs can stand still and not have to move or get too wide of a stance, and so that we can use them. And I think once they started holding a little bit, and we told them to hold the screens, you couldn't slip them like we do a lot of times. You had to hold them. Once we started doing that, we figured it out and started getting better looks. But the big thing was we hit a few threes. George hit one, Jansen hit a couple. We started making shots that really I think for the years out, will be expected, not something that's rare.
Were you sort of looking at on the side in that first half? You missed your first 10 3-point attempts, and you're like, man, here we go again.
No, you can't be like that. That's the difference between if I get like that, they're going to get like that. So, sometimes you get into the summer and you look back and you go, ooh, I don't know how I held on. But if you start doubting what we do, then we're done. So these kids stayed with it. I thought defensively, this is one of probably the strongest defensive team we've had. They were hurting us a little bit early inside with the big boy, but then we put Iron and doubled, put Gorin in a little while, then Iron, and it slowed down. I think it knocked them off the rhythm a little bit, and then we had Tavion Kinsey, and they didn't.
You look at their big guy, and Love did go through spurts where he was really good for them, but in the second half, I think it was until the 6-minute mark that he had scored. Is that the important thing? He's going to get his boards, but you can't let him finish down low, and you got to get into him. I think
the biggest thing was we started our normal lineup, and we had to go with Iron. Then we came out second half, we started Iron, and he didn't get off on anybody. Basketball's a game of rhythm. Iron's big enough to hold him off the blocks and not let him get into a rhythm. Then Gorin came in and then defended him. And then by the time we got to the end, you have Jansen and George in there. Now it's quickness. They're trying to move quicker, trying to catch up. And now our quickness took over. So, it was total team effort defensively. It always is. I thought we rebounded well. That's a real good rebounding team. And we were able to out-rebound them. So, make sure you make mention of that. And, it's basically we got a good group of young men who play as hard as they can every day in practice. And they're fun to watch and be a part of and cheer. And I don't know where that's going to take us. You never know. What's my goal? Win the NCAA title. It always is. Will be every year. I don't care what team I got. And I thought this team was picked their win their horizon. They had the player of the year coming back. They were a little bit like us in preparation in that they were off and had about 5 days like we did first game. But it doesn't hurt teams like theirs and ours, the first game, as much because they're veteran teams. If that's a rookie team, that really will kill you. But they basically had a lot of their players back, and probably didn't hurt them as bad because they put on a tough performance and well coached. And like I said, they play a lot harder in person than they did on tape last year.
Jared has been so instrumental to your all's program over the years, and it seemed like on a night where he broke Skip's record that he had a Skip type effort. He did a little bit of everything. It wasn't just defense; it was scoring, facilitating, and the defense tonight.
And Jared is a winner, which means he plays all facets of the game, and he does it well, And I know we got COVID rule. We might get to see him again next year, maybe. I don't know. Whatever's good for him. Maybe he'll get a NBA look. I don't know. I want what's good for him. Such a great kid. But certainly if we get a chance to have him back, I would look forward to that too.
Dan D'Antoni already thinking about what next year might look like if Jansen, a guy like that's back, a guy like Jared's back. You have a guy like Tavion Kinsey, he's going to be there as well. You have all these pieces back, but specifically in this case, Jared West. Outstanding performance last night in the victory over Wright State. One piece of news before we go. Next Saturday's North Texas at UTEP game. Now going to be played at North Texas on Friday, December 11th. So that news just coming out. There's going to be a lot of adjustments, I'm sure, in the Conference USA football schedule. Of course, Marshall's playing Rice tomorrow. That game, noon kick. We go on the air at 9 a.m. right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. And then after that, we're going to wait because Marshall's set to play FIU. If FIU can't go, what will the conference do? Will the conference come in and say the schedule is going to be adjusted? Will it be the same night, different opponent? Will it be a different day, same opponent? What's going to happen? Nobody's for certain. However, all I can tell you is that tomorrow Marshall's playing Rice. No indication that game is going to be pulled or postponed or canceled here at the last moment. So that game seems to be in good shape. It's the game next week you're worried about. And so the league's going to definitely make some adjustments, try to figure out what's best for the league. I can't imagine if Marshall doesn't have FIU as an opponent next week that the league is going to allow Marshall to not have a game. Game's got to be played. I mean, you're trying to play as many games as you possibly can and try to have as valid of a regular season as possible. All Marshall has to do is win out. Win out, you win the East Division. And if you win out, you will have the home field advantage in the Conference USA Championship game. So those are the reasons why you hope that Marshall can hang on for the next couple of weeks. And really, it's not a matter of hanging on. It's just get some games in, play, go out and win. I think the Herd should be and is favored against Rice. And so I think this is a game Marshall can win. Rice is a tough opponent. Let's not count them out just yet. And then next week, you hope that FIU's your opponent. If not, maybe it's Charlotte. I'm telling you right now, I am banking on Charlotte for next week. And that's going to do it for this edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Don't forget, 9 a.m. We're going to be doing it 9 a.m. Get your Tudor's biscuits early. Get in line. If you're in line during 9 a.m. hour, turn us on. Get your order your Thundering Herd. That's game day tradition. Order the Thundering Herd biscuit. I'll allow a Ron. I'll allow a Peppy. I don't think I'm going to allow anything else, though. Maybe a politician, but I'm going to allow those. Get your Thundering Herd tomorrow at Tudor's. Or if you're in the area, get something at Oscars. I mean, there's an option for you as well. All right, we've talked enough about food. Good night, everyone.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.